Welcome, everybody. This is the Fall Line with Chaos and Company. I'm Dave Caper, and I'm here with my partner, Angelo Ross, and we are getting ready to launch season 3, and we have an amazing guest here with us, Chris Fellows from out in California, and I'm so psyched that Chris agreed to come on. I haven't met Chris. This is the first time I've met him. Had a few email conversations, but Chris, thanks for coming and welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm psyched to talk with you guys about skiing.
Yeah. Well, Angelo and I will tell you, man, we love talking skiing. Our wives are already like, okay, it's not ski season yet, but we're chatting already. And we had a long phone call today. Angelo and I did earlier today. And my wife came in, went out and did some stuff, came back in, and she's like, just shaking her head. Like, I know she's thinking, you guys are still on the phone. Right, Angelo?
We're like that. Our wives had some choice nicknames for us.
Yes.
Suggested we move in together, get a house, get a little cabin halfway between New Hampshire and Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so fun. But this is awesome, Chris, and I'm excited to hear about so much of the stuff. And I know you're an Eastern guy, kind of grew up here in Central Mass, which is kind of cool. I know we'll chat about that as we go through things. I don't know if people knew. I didn't know that until we were looking at having you on the podcast, which is cool. It's amazing how many folks that we talked to that have made the team and are out west now or moved out west, started in the East, just growing up and being here, which is cool. Michael and Robin and some of the other crew. But the one thing that the listeners love the most, and we keep it in here for everybody that's new coming on the podcast, is that question of how old were you when you learned how to ski? Was it with family, friends, an organized lesson? Did somebody just kind of pitch and catch and put you up the top of the hill and push you, or was it the backyard?
Yeah, no, I was 35 years old when I learned how to ski, and then I made the team right after that, and the rest is history. No, growing up I grew up in a little town called Athol, Mass, down Route 2, somewhere on the other side of Worcester, near Fitchburg, Leominster. And at that time, there was a little ski hill called Snow Hill, and it was about 240 vertical feet. And it came right down onto Route 2. And I had a rope tow and a T-bar and a little lodge. And it was run by a family named the Smiths. And they did all the, did all the grooming. They did all the maintenance on the lifts. They ran the lodge and, the snack shop. And it was, a family-run deal. But it was great for our town because, we had a little town and nobody really could get up to skiing. A lot of families were just factory worker families. And so, but we had this little hill. And so we all took advantage of it. And they had a little ski school. They had a couple guys teaching skiing. And that's how I learned. There was a guy named Pete Dean and Frank Judicki, and they're long gone. But I mean, they were so passionate about this 240 vertical feet of slope, and they taught, and I learned there, and with my sister and my parents, we took a 1-day learn to ski deal from those guys, and the rest was just like, as soon as I could stop and turn and ride the lift, then we were just on our own. It was awesome. It was great.
So back then in the early years, because turning is like they all get on us as PSA skiers that we love to turn. Did you enjoy turning, or was it kind of straight down and get back on the rope tow?
Yeah, as a kid, you were lucky if you made 2 turns on 240 vertical feet. You just go, you make 2 turns here at the bottom. But so like all of us that learned at little hills, you build jumps and you go through the trees and that's how you were learning. That's how you were turning and learning how to balance on your skis is just playing with the terrain. So, I think I was thinking about this last year. I was talking to a couple people at Academy about, people that learn at little hills that have to ride a surface lift and then are kind of left on their own. They learn so fast, and they develop such a cool sense of, movement and balance on their skis. Without any formal training. It's just, hey, I'm going off a jump, or I'm jumping into these trees and these this thicket of willows. I've got to, just stand on one foot to get through it. But, stuff like that, as a little kid, that's heaven. So, I think in the people that I talked with at Academy, they were saying, a lot of, like the Flynn, the new team members, the Flynn brothers.
Yeah.
I was talking to those guys, and they said, we learned on surface lifts and when we were kids. And I guess I haven't skied with those guys much. I've seen them at Academy, but I haven't really skied with them. But I hear they're just rippers. And and I think that's if you do a survey and you talk with people that grew up in Little Hills with surface lifts, there a lot of them will say, it's probably because I was on my feet all the time, going up and down, and then having to, balance on all these funky side hills and jumps and trees and everything else. So, maybe not the formal side of it, but more just being able to be on my own.
So I grew up skiing at Mount Whittier here in West Ospey, just north of me. And I'm wondering what the grooming was like at this little hill when you were a kid, because I know at Whittier there was not those tillers and fancy things that put the corduroy down.
Yeah, what did you guys have?
They had the tuckers, and they'd have big 8x8s and chains. They had the powder maker rollers, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And the guy, I think it was Doug Smith, was their son, and Doug had this little imp. You remember those imps? They were it was like a miniature snowcat. But he would drag barrels behind this miniature snowcat. And same thing, barrels and chains, and go up and down. And the guy, I never saw the guy ski. In 10 years of skiing at that little hill when I was a kid. But really, really, really crude equipment for sure.
So as you kept skiing there as a youngster, and then how did you branch out, like through your teen years and that? Did you ski Vermont? Did you come to New Hampshire?
Oh yeah, that was the dream, right? Going up to New Hampshire where you guys are, and going up to Vermont, and every once in a while we get out. But I used to ski at a place once in a while called Berkshire East in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but it was run by a guy named Roy Schaefer, and he had some kids that were really into ski racing. And then I went to school at GCC, Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts. So it's super close to Berkshire East. And I ended up getting a job teaching skiing there for Roy Schaefer and the ski school. And that was, they had some great ski coaches because it was kind of a race hill, and it was, Roy's kids were coming up and they were racing. I think they went on to ski on the U.S. ski team, or one of them did. And I think his name was Billy or Tommy. And they had some great coaches there. Paul Putnam and Steve Putnam were amazing coaches. And so I got hooked in with those guys. And early on, I got involved with PSIA, and I took my first PSIA clinic up in Stowe from Joe Wood and Bill Tate. Those were my two trainers, Bill Tate and Joe Wood. I know Joe just recently passed on, but I think Willie Tate.
We hear those names a lot when we interview people. Yeah,
they were the gods. Yeah. They were god of PSIA back then.
Well, Joe, I got to ski quite a bit. I got to understudy when I first made the development team here in the East, and was on the examining staff with him. Wow. And Joe, I've never been able to ski. I didn't know Willie Tate, but Joe I did, and he was still, man, it was amazing. Some of the clinics when I understudied him, when he started rolling and bringing out the education, was amazing. Just the experience and knowledge base. He was still a god, man. Even in his later years, it was cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever ski with Woody Woodward?
No, I know who he is, and no, I think I might have been in a clinic with him once. He came out here and did something at Heavenly Valley. Yeah. They invited him as a guest clinician, and he was coaching at the time. He was a ski coach as well, correct? Yeah. In Maine, at the University of Maine, correct?
I think so, yeah, because he was buddies with Tom Reynolds and that whole crew, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Those guys were legends as well.
Yeah.
Tom Reynolds.
Yep. Yeah. So the addiction was early. It was like, was it that first time or did you have to turn first, or was it just going straight?
Just like, I was just so enamored with the whole idea that I could just be free on my skis, and be not have to listen to anybody lecturing me. Just like go off and get outside, and my parents would drop us off and say, "See ya," and pick us up after the place closed. When they shut the lighthouse at 10 o'clock. I've had a passion for it.
So you started teaching,
like all of us.
Yeah, I mean, you started teaching at Berkshire East, and what was the pull? Like, you went there skiing a few times, and did you meet somebody? Was it you saw the ski instructors out there, or you needed to get a ticket, so you had to start teaching to get a ticket?
Well, yeah, it was all that, right? It was like all that. It was a cheap way to get on the hill and get some good coaching, and while you're going to college. And back then, Berkshire East did the PE credits for the 5 colleges. So they had UMass, Amherst, Mount Holyoke, Smith, Hampshire, and they would just bring them all up in buses and drop them off at Berkshire East, and we would teach their ski credit. And then, of course, they'd invite us back for parties, back to Amherst, and it was just, we had a blast. It was so much fun. And I got paid for this. I can't believe it.
So do you remember the first clinic or lesson that you taught to somebody? Do you remember that first experience doing that?
Yeah, I did want. Well, even before Berkshire East, I taught at that little hill for one season, and I had this kid, and he would just not listen to me. He was just going straight, and he goes flying out of control down the hill, and he smacks into this fence, and he's bawling his eyes out, and he lifts up his leg, and his foot. This is my foot. His foot is turned around the opposite way, like this, and I'm there. Oh my God, what have I done? I am freaking out. I don't even want to. I go down. I'm like, I know nothing about first aid. I go down there, and the kid was in a size boot that was like 6 sizes too big for him, and his foot had slipped out and spun on his foot, so it didn't hurt him at all. It was just it freaked me out. It freaked me out. But yeah, then I don't know why I ever wanted to teach skiing after that, because
these are the things, Angelo, that happen to all of us. And people go, even to us as examiners, we're not team members, but even team members, we have all those experiences that so many of our first time and coaches coming in have, that are like, oh my God, I was skiing with somebody today and they literally had their sneakers on inside their ski boots. Like, yep, that happens.
I know.
That is so amazing. Oh my God. So, how did you graduated from college?
Yeah.
And was it an instant you knew as you were going through school you were heading west, or?
I went up to Vermont. I went to Johnson State, and I went to do their ski area management program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bachelor's degree in business management with an emphasis ski area management. And Sherm White was actually one of the. I went to a lecture. You guys know Sherm, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Sherm was doing a lecture, and I went to Smugs for one of my classes, and there was Sherm talking about the legal side of the ski industry and all that. So it was interesting. So that was one of my classes, and I graduated from there. Then I quickly decided that I was going to come out west, and I had a friend whose brother worked at Heavenly Valley, and we came out on just a ski vacation to see him and to check out the ski school. And I was just blown away, because they had, I was coming from a little school at Berkshire East, and these guys had, every supervisor was an examiner. The ski school director was Peter Duke at the time. He was on the national team. Stu Campbell was the assistant director. So it was just top heavy and just all these guys that were just gods of the ski world back then. And so I talked with Peter Duke, and he goes, "Yeah, if you want to teach out here next year," because I had already got my associates, and he said, "If you want to teach level 2 associate back then,
he
said, if I teach, just be out here by Christmas, and you can get a job." So I got in my car, and that next winter, and I drove cross country to get a job at Heavenly Valley, and I worked with those guys for 4 years at Heavenly Valley.
And so, did you know then that I'm going to teach, or was this just like, man, this is so much fun, I've got to do this, and you weren't thinking like, I'm going to do this for a career?
I was just meeting such cool people, and learning so much, and I felt like I was right where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And everybody that I was around were, super upbeat and positive and psyched to be outdoors, and they were outdoor mountain people. And I said, this is my tribe. These are the people that I want to be around. These are the people I'm going to surround myself with. So I think early on, I keyed in on that, and I just kept, meeting great people and having mentors and people that were interested in helping me, come up through the ranks. And I think that, being in that type of culture was enlightening to me. And, not that I didn't have that in the East, because I did, as we already talked to some of the people, but I really felt it at Heavenly Valley. It was, there was a big, big push to get your certifications and, make the ed staff, and maybe even someday make the national team. So, that was early on in my career.
That's cool. And you haven't mentioned that of any rock climbing or climbing. Did you climb before you went west, or was that something you picked up out west?
Yeah, I know. I climbed in college. I climbed a little bit in college, and basic stuff. Nothing, nothing too hairy, but just single, maybe 2 pitches. And then when I came out west, and I saw some of these peaks, and I drove through the Tetons, and I saw saw the Grand Teton, and I'm going to climb that someday. I was just like, so, really, my eyes were so open to the West and what the West, provided, and not only for skiing, and a lot of people in the ski industry climb, they, at least out here, there were a lot of climbers and bikers and, backcountry skiers. And, this is back in the 80s, so it was, early on. We were climbing Mount Black, early on in the 80s, and skiing some of that stuff that, now everybody and their grandmother goes up there and climbs that stuff. But yeah, that was kind of part of that mountain culture that I was talking about, where, because they were year-round mountain athletes. Yeah, we'll be a part of.
I still haven't got that. Maybe it's because I just haven't met the right people or haven't seen the hill I want to climb. But I watch people, or on TV, or I see them up in in Mount Washington Valley, some of the places they climb, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not a heights person. Angelo, you ready to go?
That's what the rope's for.
That's what the rope's for.
You guys do you guys climb up?
Man.
I climbed a bit from 94 into probably the early 2000s. My buddy that I grew up with, Ryan, and I kind of both moved back home at the same time after college, and got into climbing and a little bit of yoga, like stretching and climbing. And then we came to the realization that if we stretched before we climbed, we felt better and we did better. One of the coolest things that we learned from it, though, is we're built very differently. Like if we were in Tolkien world, I'm a hobbit and he's an elf. He's like 6 feet tall and I'm 5'6", and we weigh the same. You know what I mean? But what was cool is that we approached problems differently, and things that were easy for me were impossible or hard for him, and then vice versa. Just based on where our center of mass was when we bent our bodies, and his ass would be hanging out too far sometimes. And then there were things I couldn't reach. But what I learned from that, I think, like related to the ski hill, was that like body designs impact the way you do every sport. So you hear people now, or I hear people now, I'm sure you guys too, try to fit themselves into the box that they think looks right, because that's what this guy or this gal looks like. But it doesn't let you figure out how you're going to do it, or what solutions are going to work for you. And I haven't climbed very much since then, but that was my takeaway from it.
No, I think you're spot on, and it's so interesting to hear that, and especially knowing a little bit about your background in art and the way that you kind of maybe see things from an artist's perspective. That can be really different, because climbing is a very creative pursuit, and just looking at a sequence of moves, you may see that entirely differently than your buddy, who may be a little bit more linear or have a different way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that you brought that up.
Well, and you can take the same approach at the top of a bump run, right? Or even the same approach with gear selection. I remember going to tryouts through the years, and my buddy here, who I ski with a lot, Dave knows well, is Jim Pottinger, and Jim's built more like Ryan. So when we're talking about, hey, I'm going to this dev team tryout or this ETS tryout, what gear do you think I should take? His recommendations, like as I got more knowledge and got a little more, develop my skill set, I'm like, I don't think that's going to work for me. I think I'm going to take this, but what I learned from climbing kind of gave me permission to do that, to make my own choices.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I love being able to just get out there and be. There's no rule in terms of you've got to step on this hold, or you got to grab this handhold, or smear on this piece of the rock, or jam in this crack. You just kind of figure it out and go, okay, what's going to work for me, and how where am I in terms of how I want to get up this thing. So it's an interesting aspect of the sport, the mental side of it, because there's also the fear big time. And when you're scared, you really, especially in climbing, you realize how that fear can really limit the way your body moves and the way that you perform. And it's a good reminder, especially for skiing, right? We get out there and you get on something that's a little pucker factor, and you go, ooh, how am I going to do this? And, in terms of the way you might normally ski, if you didn't have that, you really can limit yourself.
So speaking of that, the pucker factor, it's like you had that inkling in the brain. You said early on, maybe I could go to the team. Did it develop quickly that I have an inkling, but now I want to go, and there was a progression? Or was there kind of, you had some steps on the way that kept going, yeah, maybe that inkling is good, keep working? Was it slow, or was it fast, or how did you go? Because that was in the late 80s you were thinking about that, right?
Yeah,
early on. Or?
I think for me it was very, very I wouldn't say methodical, but it was slow, because I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to get my level 3. And so I, got my level 3. And then I wanted to try to make, the ed staff. So we had to go through a pretty rigorous process out here in the West to make ed staff. And they had some really brutal examiners that, I'll mention one name, like George Tredokins. He was like the gate master of letting us on to ETS. It's called ETS at that time, Examiner Training Squad. And, George Tredokins, he was a professor at UNR in I think kinesiology and physiology. And he taught a class there in physics, it was the physics of skiing. And his daughter, Ava Tredokins, was on the U.S. ski team. So you guys probably know his background. Yeah. But anyway, he was the guy that we had to get through him. And he would just, make us squirm. And I remember one time he said, he goes, he had me just cornered, and I was just talking such BS and I knew it, and he knew it, and everybody in the group knew it. And he goes, Mr. Fellows, either you know a lot or you know a little. I think you know a little. and then he says, and you remind me of a little greased pig, because every time I grab you, you squeeze, you come right out of my hands. You slip right out of my hands. And he's like, who says that? Who says that kind of stuff? I mean, can you imagine somebody saying that to you and you just try out now? He goes, you remind me of a little greased pig.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Our journey's through.
Why don't you know the formula for centrifugal force? You should know the formula for centrifugal force. And he would go on and on. And it's like, oh, please, George, just let me go. All right, I don't want to be on ETS. All right, I give up, Uncle.
Oh, God, that is beautiful. So, I mean, it's interesting because we all have along the way, we have these, sort of roadblocks or struggles. And it's funny when we laugh about them now, but at the time it was part of listening to y'all.
Oh, no, I called Jim Kircher. Jim Kircher was the chief examiner back then. And I said, Jim, I don't think I'm coming back. I told him the story, and he goes, Chris, listen to me. Just go back tomorrow. You're going to be fine. So Kircher, you guys know Jim Kircher? Jim,
I know.
He worked for Vail for years, and he was at Breckenridge, and most recently, I think he just retired. He was at Jackson Hole as the director at Jackson Hole. But an amazing guy, really great guy, and just even keeled guy. And he just, I got to hand it to him. He said, just go back tomorrow, and you'll be all right. So I went back and I made ETS, and by the skin of my teeth, barely, probably on provisional. I had to do probably some special homework. But those things I think make us all stronger, right? When you have to squirm like that, and you feel like there's no way you're ever going to make it. And so throughout the whole process, whether it was, ETS or even the regional team, I didn't make the regional team my first shot. So, I thought, I gave it my best shot. And then I went back and made it, and then I made the national team. So, I think for me, the process was where it needed to be for who I was and how I was progressing and how I was, becoming a better skier and a better coach and clinician and teammate and all the things that, that you need to be a part of that team. So I think it happens when it's supposed to happen. I think if you talk to any team member, they'll say the same thing. It happened, when it was supposed to. Except for Razor. Razor made it when he was 12 years old.
That's right.
Yeah. How do you get through that?
Oh, Razor. So, who inspired you? Was there someone? I mean, you've talked a lot about some people who encouraged you and supported you, to get there. Is there a couple that really, or was there someone that inspired you maybe early on? Maybe it was those folks you were talking about at Heavenly that, you had that inkling of the team, who was it or who were they and how did they inspire you? Was it their skiing, their coaching?
I think early on there was a strong contingent from the West, with Dave Manager and JP Chevalier and Gordy Johnson and Gary Pasikian and Carl Underkoffler, and that's really strong Western crew that were great because they were on the national team and they were more than willing to work with us that wanted to be on the national team. So they were great guys. Mike Iman was another. He was a coach, and a ski school director, and he was, donated countless hours, giving us lift tickets and taking us out and running us through tasks. And he was great. Really a good one. Ted Pitcher was the same way. He did all kinds of extracurricular work, which he didn't have to, but he did because he believed in us and he wanted to make sure we had the best shot. But Mike Sodergren was probably my main mentor, and he's who I started NASTIC with. And he had tried out, never made the national team, but was on the Intermountain team and the Western team. And he was really I worked with him at Palisades, Squaw Valley. And he was very instrumental with me making the team and starting NASTIC. He started NASTIC with me in 94.
Yeah. And who inspires you now? Like when you look at skiing or you think about coaching, and who is it? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired by everybody. I mean, all these new team members that are doing what some of the things they're doing, and making the team and being really, really strong members of that team. Nick Heron was always someone that I would turn to in terms of contemporaries, and the Boyd brothers and T-Bar. When I was on the team, we had a pretty close relationship, and we always used to bounce things because we both had kids the same age, so we were in the same point in our lives, and we're always talking about the balance of doing team stuff and doing our own stuff at our own schools, and then the balance with our kids and the support we got from our wives. It's just like, it's all really important when you're trying to make those decisions to whether I'm going to be on the team again or not, and that type of thing. So it was great. Charlie MacArthur was another great teammate and someone that I was inspired by. But yeah, Mike Hafer, I'm so impressed with that guy, because when I first skied with Mikey, he came to just shadow a NASTIC course, and he was just a ski instructor at North Star. And then just to watch his trajectory and to watch his growth, and he came, and then he became a NASTIC trainer, and now he's just made the team again at 50 years old, and it's like that inspires me. And that he came here, he did a NASTIC camp for me at Palisades, and then he did a regional team training, and I got to be in that regional team training as a participant. And I was like, this is full circle, I'm getting some great information. I'm getting, I'm getting psyched on my skiing. I'm watching his skiing, and I'm getting, so it really, if you're around long enough, you come full circle. And the people that you mentored, now become, people that inspire you, that are your people you're looking up to. So it's great, especially somebody with Mike Hafer. He's just so funny and such a.
We had a great podcast with Mike. He even put the challenge out there to Dixon about a wrestling challenge. So
don't wrestle him. I'm telling you, he was like a state champion, and he won't tell anybody that, but he will put you in headlock faster than you can.
I don't know, Chris. You may
look the way he's built. And
you may not have heard this, Chris. We said this on one podcast at last year at Academy on Thursday at the sponsor party. I was walking out of the real crowded room to go outside, and Hafer grabbed me in the hallway, and he's like, "I wrestled Dixon and I won." And then 40 yards later, I ran into Dixon. He's like, "I wrestled Hafer and I won."
That confirmed it, right? That's hilarious.
No one
That's hilarious. I would love to see that. I would love to see that match.
There might be videos.
Yeah.
There might.
And people like Heidi Etlinger in coming up through, and what she's done, and she's turned into such a pro. And Robin Barnes, you can't say enough about her. And these people are, they've really carried the energy and carried the tradition and carried the standard, for for what was there before, and maybe push the dial a little further. And I'm really, really inspired by people like that have worked so hard for so many years and have been so loyal to PSIA and the mission and bringing others up through the fold. Some of these new team members have been mentored by some of those people, and they'll mentor others. New people coming up. So that's the way it should be. That's the way it needs to be, to keep it healthy and strong, and so all of us can continue into our old age.
Yeah. It's interesting because you've kind of almost answered the next question in terms of that. You can tell talking with you, Chris, that you're definitely a lifelong learner, thinking about the team members coming along and the stuff you're learning from them, that you're going full circle. We always talk about it and try to inspire people to be lifelong learners. And just because you got your level 2 or your level 3, don't stop there. It's continues. But how do you look at your evolution, and like what areas of skiing or teaching and things are you personally kind of trying to grow in? You're going, maybe I can do a little better job here or there.
I'm just trying to keep my wheels on. It's not easy, as you get older, your body, it's just trying to not only stay fit, but also stay agile, and stay so you can continue to, perform well and not get hurt, and ski at speed and not be intimidated by it. And, all the things that you've done, but, each year it's a new challenge. So I just realized that I need to keep a continuous fitness program going, and try to pick people's brains that are my age or older, or what they're doing, if how they're staying active, and what they're using for training program, and I'm always I'm reading books. I'm reading a great book right now called Built from Broken. Have you guys read that book?
No.
I mean it's really good in terms of how, especially if you had an injury or if you have some overuse stuff in your body, how to look at that and then, build back from, maybe that injury. And it's a kind of a holistic perspective on not only exercises, but, nutrition and posture and lifestyle choices. And so, I'm always looking for stuff and looking for stuff online and listening to others that that are making it happen.
So you can just chat with your, and I know, I think anybody that makes the team, there's definitely has to be some form of enjoying the part of learning. Has that always been something that you really enjoyed, that learning process and gaining new things and trying new things?
Yeah, I think all of us, right? All of us that are part of that mountain community, we're always looking around the corner. For me, there was always a bit of a wanderlust, with the travel and, looking for new stuff or new ideas with equipment or new ideas with technique and listening to people that are, maybe a little bit out there where, with some strange ideas, not discrediting them, saying, there's some credit there. There's a reason why that person is so passionate about what they're doing. And it may sound really weird and out there, but there might be some validity to it. So, taking things that really sound strange and bizarre and say, okay, let's look at that. Well, what's that all about?
I mean, that's something with Angelo. I think even with his skateboarding, that creativity, and I mean, he loves to skateboard, and he says he's beat himself up doing it. But it's that continual part of learning that I think he loves. It's like trying to do new tricks and what he can do with the board. I mean, I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, because you're definitely a lifelong learner, Angelo.
Angelo, have you seen that new Tony Hawk? I don't know if it's new, but it's new to me. I just saw it on the airplane. There's a documentary on Tony Hawk's life and how he, created those tricks and how he, kind of built his career.
Yeah, it's great. And a lot of those folks interviewed in that documentary have been our heroes since we were kids. Like all the guys who were on that Pal Peralta team in the mid '80s, Rodney Mullen and Lance Mountain and Tommy Guerrero and Mike McGill and Caballero, and they're still skating at an amazing level. But it's interesting, Lance Mountain talks pretty much toward the end of that documentary about how this has basically destroyed his body. And that's the conversation I have with my friends when we're skating now. It's like, okay, like some of this stuff that we used to do isn't attainable right now. And the recovery definitely takes longer. So, but, like it's the one activity in my life that I'm really compelled to do. When I walk into, we have a little private skate park down the road. And when I say compelled, I mean that purposefully, like it's a compulsion. I'm there and I can't stop and I can't slow down and I'm hurting and famished and dehydrated, but it's still too hard to quit. So how do you do that and age at the same time? And I don't know the answer, so I just wrote down Built from Broken, which I heard is a great book that I should read this book.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. We probably should read The Fitness for Skiing and Snowboarding. I think someone we have on the call authored that book. That might be the place to start for us.
Oh man, no, that was great. That, like any of those publications, it takes a really strong team behind it. And, I'm on that as one of the authors. Doug Kachigian is also the other author, and he's amazing. He's got a military background, and he's a PhD in physical therapy, and he was really instrumental in helping put that whole thing together. And of course, Nick helped push it through, and then Heidi Ellinger and Darren Rolfs both were great in terms of helping us with the on snow and the gym stuff. And I can't, the people at PSIA-AASI are that put those publications together are incredible. Wendy Schrupp is amazing. She is, I have to really give her so much credit for all the writing that I've done over the years, because early on I would submit these things that were barely legible, and she would make all these edits, and then I'd reread and go, "Wow, that's great! Wow, what a great article!" But but no, she's phenomenal, and her, Linda Crockett, Deb Marks, when Deb Marks was at PSIA, and then went to Ski Magazine, and some of this, I was fortunate to write some stuff for Ski Magazine, a couple features and some other articles. And Deb Marks was amazing. And again, held my hand through a lot of it and help what I was writing, look like something that someone could read or want to read. But no, they're great people. So my point is, all those publications it takes a team of, committed people, and it's not, someone's name may be on it, but the reality is there's a lot of people that were involved to make it what it is.
Yeah. I think probably our membership doesn't take as advantage of that as they should in terms of that publication. It's it's great. All the people who put in the work that went into it. It's a pretty great book, The Fitness for Skiing and Snowboarding. I imagine that's a lot of the stuff you do because you were one of the authors and made the team and continue to climb.
It is. It's great. No, it is. It's a good reference. And what's great about it is it's in. You can download it on your phone, so you can go to the gym, and then there's a playlist of the different exercises and drills that you can do. So I'll go to the gym and I go, oh yeah, what's that Zercher squat? How does that, what was Doug talking about when he did that? And so I'll just, click on that video, and then, oh yeah, then it reminds me. And then that video correlates to the program, the 3 or 5 week program, which one you're doing. And so if you're looking for an early season program without hiring someone that's going to, as a coach, you can use that. And I've talked with members and people that have access to that. They've used that as their early season training, and just taken their phone to the gym and just kind of followed through with those exercises. So it is, the beauty with that piece is that, you can either download the program, the playlist, or you can just scan with your phone right on the picture, and that QR code will pop up the video automatically. So
that's awesome.
I think it's a good way to transition from book to real time, gym workout.
And that book probably helps when they have this one or the total skiing.
Yeah, you have to have both.
Actually, do the stuff you talk about in here, because I think.
You can't buy it just.
But when it comes to the other two books, total skiing and tactics for all mountain skiing. Those are two. As I have read through those are books that I read coming up through, and as a staff member, have one right here.
Thanks.
It's all about versatility. That's what I got a lot out of them, was, looking at the versatility, being able to do multiple things and being able to adapt to situations. And without that fitness part, it's got to be pretty hard to do anything in kind of your world, whether you're skiing or climbing.
I think you're right, and you guys see it because you're out there and you're working with members, and you want the best for them. You want to pass them. You want them to achieve their whatever they're doing, level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever it is. And it's hard not to say if there's something holding them back, like there's a fitness component holding them back. It's really hard not to mention that. And I actually got in trouble doing a level 3 at Mammoth last year. I probably shouldn't say this on air, but I mentioned that to a candidate, and I got yelled at that I shouldn't have said that. So, but I truly believe that is one of the components that we need to address, whether it's as examiners or clinicians or whoever. That is a piece that could hold somebody back from being able to achieve the tasks or the demos or what you're asking them to do to make that standard. Yeah. So that's how I
have
to agree with them.
I mean, you have to agree with that because it's true, and I have folks at home on my staff who, have very, very limited flexibility. Like, can you bend over and touch your toes? Can you get close to your toes? Can you lift your knee up as high as your belt buckle when you're standing in the locker room? If you can't do those things, it's not going to magically occur in the middle of a bump field, or if it does, you'll tear something. So there is a fitness reality to it, and I brought the tactics book down, because I was messaging with Troy a little bit today, and we were talking about some of the our organizational language is so technique oriented. We're very, very biased on the side of technique, and tactics takes a back seat. But Troy's comment was tactics is what takes somebody from good to great, but there's a piece to it. I think this might come full circle. It might just sound like complete bullshit, but we'll see. I have noticed, and Dave and I have talked about that all or the vast majority of people we've had on this show are all at the highest levels of what we do in this country, right? And there's a theme that runs through our guests I've seen, and I've commented on this self-determination, this idea of self-coaching and how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to do it, right? And you said that, Chris, just a minute ago. You said you made the team that was the right time for you. It happened at the right time for you, and you went about it the way you thought was right for you. And there's a piece of self-determination in there that I feel like I'd like to see more of in our organization. I feel like there are folks who are trying to figure out how to do it the right way rather than their way. And there's overlap there, But if you're not a rock climber, or if you're not a mountain biker, or you're not a skateboarder, like the skateboard documentary for a minute, when everybody had to learn to do the 540 air, which in the 80s was called a McTwist because Mike McGill invented that trick, at a camp in Sweden, and comes back, and then he was the only person doing it. And all these other guys, Tony Hawk and all these other guys, had to learn how to do it or they wouldn't be competitive. But if you watch Tony Hawk do it, or you hear him talk about his process to learning that, or Christian Hosoi was the other guy, Tony, very mechanical and technical, and Christian, all flow and style. They do that trick so differently, and they can't do it the same way. That there's got to be something that you learn about movement and the way you move, so that when I'm standing at the top of the bumps next to Chris Fellows, or I'm standing at the top of the bumps next to Dave Capron, and we say, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? That I hadn't thought of that. It's pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to work for me. I'm going to try it this way. And I'd love to see more of our members get there. But I think it's through, using books like yours as a guidepost. Like, you got to be fit, and then you have to have access to these tactics, and then you can do anything you want, And I think you are kind of jokingly saying you got to have both books, but that's not a joke, man. That's true. If you're going to be as good as you can be, you have to be at your height of fitness, and you have to have access to the tactics that you need. So then you've got choices. I think it comes back somewhere kind of serious, but it's fun to joke about, but like it's really what gives you freedom of movement.
For sure. Yeah. And then, and there was that mental aspect as well that we were talking about, and what you're bringing to the table that day, that situation, that run, where are you mentally? Maybe you had a rough night the night before, or, you just don't have energy, or maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're just completely energized and you're on fire, and you got, and that will dictate, what you're going to do tactically to get it done, and, outcome based, right? What's the outcome going to be?
And I asked this question quite a bit of our guests. I'll ask you now, like, at some point as somebody learning this sport or any other, but it seems like a lot in the ski world. There are a lot of people. I always say they're looking for permission. Can I do this? Are you allowed to do a step turn? And how do you encourage folks to make that leap from seeking permission to like figuring out how they're going to go about it? It's a big move, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I like that. I like that idea because I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. I think that there's going to be a wave. Who knows why? Cultural, or it's just time. But I think there's going to be more freedom and more latitude to play. There always has been, and it has been. But let's take the Austrians, for example. For at least when I was on the team, and even beyond that, they were real carve heavy, wide stance, Euro carve kind of feel, and really, powerful, driving the edges deep into the snow. And I think they got a lot of flack from their customers and their guests saying, "Hey, we want to ski a little bit more elegantly." And so that they changed their, some of their focus to into more elegant type skiing and more flowy type skiing. Not saying that what you learn from being able to hold an edge and carve a turn and be strong mechanically, that's key and that's important. But with that, there needs to be the ability to be, to flow and to be able to, be creative and be, try new things and new tricks like what you're doing on the skateboard. I'm trying stuff that I listened to the podcast you guys did with Wayne Wong, and it's like, talk about a pioneer. Back in the day, his whole thing was about trying new tricks and inventing new stuff. And I think we need more of that. We need more of that. And we're fortunate. We have Glenn Plake is on our ed staff here, and I've been able to do a couple clinics with him here in the West. And he's like the epitome of that. He's just like the free thinker, and he's got all these funny thing, Royal Christie's he wants to do. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that kind of energy and that kind of mindset and playing around like that is really helpful when you're trying to grow as a skier, or you grow as a person. Be free to try different things and get out there and not have to fit in that perfect mold, that finished form mold.
Yeah, and I agree, and I don't want to downplay technique at all, but I want to upplay tactics and style and choice and creativity and those kinds of things. Because if you can't feel freedom on the ski hill, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's why we're there. Think back to the original question. What hooked you when you were a kid? Yeah. Going through the willows, we going up the T-bar, making jumps, having fun. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Even going up the rope toe, it was so damn heavy, and the big kid in front of you is like pulling you off balance. You learn how to move, but even that rope toe became a game.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Going backwards on the rope toe.
Oh God! Yeah.
Did you ever do the thing when you're going on the T-bar side by side and you switch places on the T-bar while you're going up? That was so much fun. I want to try that again.
Last time, what a bunch of rebels! Yeah, we used to get in trouble for that.
I want to try that with Troy Walsh.
I was just going to say the last time I rode a T-bar was with Troy at Breckenridge at Academy, and it goes around the corner like that, and all of a sudden I'm like hanging from my armpit, and I'm like, dude, I'm not riding this with you anymore.
Oh, Troy boy. So speaking of fun, we've got to talk a little bit about your North American ski training and climbing school. You started that and founded that, I think, with your wife back in the mid 90s. But can you tell us a little bit about that, about the training center and skiing and the climbing?
Thanks. I really wanted to get that plug in by the end of this thing.
Well, I'm intrigued by it because when you look at the places you go and take people go to your clinics to ski, it's like, oh my God, the list of amazing places just to be and look around, never mind ski and climb.
Yeah, no, thanks. And I'm so proud of it. And again, I think back on all the people that have helped us over the years. And Jenny and I, with Mike Sodergren, had this vision in '94, and this vision was to create this elite training center where people could come, whether it's instructors or, general public, could come and get top level training by the top trainers and get to stay overnight and get to not only ski with your coach all day, but see cool terrain. And then, at night have tech talks and have dinners with your coach. And, we've all had those experiences, whether it's been National Academy or Pro Jam or, some of the international academies that are available. So we wanted to take that to the general public. So in '94, we did our first pilot program, and it was a great success. We had almost 40 participants and a bunch of examiners and regional team members. And I've got a low battery. I've got 10% on that. But anyways, yeah. So we started it with that intention. Then we just branched out and started doing. Instead of having a training center based just in Tahoe, we started running camps internationally. And we had a camp in South America, in Portillo. Jimmy Ackerson invited us down early on, and that was 28 years ago. So And then in Austria, we were in St. Anton. And then, we've been running camps in Canada and in Japan and all over Europe. So, we kind of took that international training academy concept and just started to have these little mini training centers around the world. And then we started to do backcountry ski courses and avalanche courses and rock climbing courses, and it just branched from there. Mike Sodergren, I don't know if you guys know the story of that, but in '97, Mike and Miriam and 15 other people were killed in an avalanche. That was more of a mudslide in Thredbo, Australia. And so that was in '97. So it's been 25 years since that accident. And so we lost Saudi and Miriam and all their friends that were in that building. In their memory, we started a Sodergren scholarship right off the bat. Now we offer a scholarship to those that want to do an international trip or total immersion trip that are a full-time ski pro or want to be a full-time ski pro. And every year we offer scholarships. So we got early on, we got some great donors that put enough money in an account. So now we just use the interest of that account to pay for the scholarships, but all in Mike and Miriam's name. They were the reason we were able to raise that money, and in their name, they were the quintessential ski pros. So we wanted to award that scholarship to people that were aspiring to be that, to be like Mike and them. And it was a really very brutal loss, but we feel like we've honored them and remembered them over the years by the scholarship. So it's available through the Western Division, through the Ed Foundation. So I encourage anybody that's listening that wants to go to an academy, wants to go to Interski, wants to go to some multi-day total immersion experience, to apply for that scholarship. And maybe you can get a free ride to Levi for Interski. So take advantage of that. So I think that was a big win for us, and we're very proud of that scholarship.
That's an awesome thing. I think people they can check that right on your website. I think I saw that when I was checking out the websites right on. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a link on the website. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really neat. You talk about the friendships, and I mean, as much as it's the skiing and the climbing, it talks a lot about the friendships, the lifelong friendships people make there, and talks about that part of things. And so it must be kind of neat that you've had that going on for so long when you see PSIA with our people skills and trying to create more relationships, and that seems like it fits right into that. That's
one of the benefits and one of the beauties of the profession that we've chosen to be in, right? You interact with so many people and so many like-minded people that are kind of in the same reality as you are and are trying for the same goals. And it's how fortunate are we to be able to interact with that many people that are kind of on the same trail, right?
Yeah.
I just feel so fortunate, all the people that we've interacted with and influenced, and we've been influenced by, and what a great profession it's been on.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, and now we're that with people skills and teaching skills and the fundamentals. I think there's a real push with PSIA to maybe formalize that, but at least for the new people that are up and coming to at least have a blueprint to, how can I develop some of these skills? And as examiners or as clinicians, we can utilize some material that we can point people to and say, yeah, if you want to learn more about that, more about how to develop a relationship or develop a lesson plan, or the things that that are coming out with the fundamentals is. We have that at our fingertips, digitally or even in a book form. And for sure, it's being taught and clinicked all over the U.S. because everybody that's on the team or related with the team or divisionally has that information, and they're passing that stuff on. So I think it's great. It's going to really make a change in the way we clinic and examine and help the people coming up.
So what's your favorite place in the world? Because you've gone to so many places, and you do with your training center, climbing and skiing. So what's the favorite place to ski? Like if you I can go there tomorrow and they have the snow that they usually do when I go, where would it be?
Oh, it's funny people ask me that these days with the way the snow is, it's wherever the snow is the best. That's where I want to be. Wherever the snow is the best, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
But, I have St. Anton has always been one of my favorites. I love Portillo, Chile because it is such a unique experience in modern ski world. But I was able to work early on. I was able to work in the ski school in St. Anton, and I kind of have just a love for that place. The Alberg is just an incredible place with incredible lift systems, and it's high enough, and they're in the snow belt, so they typically get good snow. And I still have friends that are there, that work there, and that are part of the ski school, and I love that. But, I can say that about Big Sky. I can say that about Palisades. I can say that about all the places that we go. I've made great friends in Japan. It's like, I have good friends up at Kicking Horse in Canada. So, yeah, wherever the snow is the best, that's where I want to go. So,
how about climbing? Where in the world's climbing?
It's amazing. Just in our own backyard of Donner Summit, there's some incredible climbing. And the east side of the Sierras, we've got 14,000 foot peaks that are, incredible with great routes that are, that are aesthetic and just, fun to be up in the high mountains. Jenny and I are going to go next week to the east side. We're going to go up into Tuolumne Meadows and climb in Tuolumne, and then climb Tenaya Peak, which is just this fun, easy climb I don't even know how high it is. It's maybe 11,000 feet, but it's just this aesthetic, beautiful climb, rock climb, and then a beautiful hike down to this lake. It's the best. Awesome. So I'm looking forward to that for next week.
Wow. So I have to ask you, because as I was, doing my research and I'm looking at your logo for the North American Training Center and Climb, it has down at the bottom of it, it's ski, bike, and climb. So I see so much about the climbing and skiing on the web. Where does the bike fit in?
When this is probably 7 or 8 years ago, we started seeing a trend for more and more people doing, bike tours and e-bike tours and e-bikes and all that. And we wanted to offer, we thought that was a good blend with climbing, that, we should offer bike tours. And to be honest with you, we really, because it was such a passion, we really didn't make it part of the commercial program. It became just a pet project. And I've been doing these really cool bike packing trips with Mark Hansen. Do you guys know Mark Hansen? Big, tall, 6 foot.
I do.
5.
Angelo does.
Yeah, you know Mark, right? Yeah. He was the ski school director at Targhee for 30 years. He just retired. But we've been doing these bike packing trips up in Idaho that have been phenomenal. And he's a really big biker. I'm just learning, so he's teaching me. And we're going on these cool routes that go, to these. We do this hot springs route up in Idaho. They go each night. You're at a different hot springs. So you may ride 40 or 50 or maybe 60 miles fully packed, with all you fully self-supported. And then you end up at this hot spring, and you've got all your stuff, your camping stuff, you lay it all out, you cook your dinner, then you soak in a hot spring, you get up the next morning, then you ride to the next hot spring. And it's like, I've been having a blast with this bike packing stuff. It's been incredible. But Mark Hansen is the guru of bike packing. He's my inspiration, and guide and teacher all wrapped in one. So he's bringing me and showing me these really cool spots up in Idaho and Montana.
Awesome.
Well, this has been awesome, and I don't want you to black out before your iPad loses battery. But I can tell. What's that? What's that?
I'm at 7% right now.
We're gonna put the invitation out now. We absolutely want you to come back, and there was just so much I wanted to ask you, and I as all the team members and people come on, I just love talking about skiing, and I want to talk a little bit more about tactics as Angelo was talking. So we definitely want to have you back at some point during this season. It would be awesome to talk a little bit more, maybe more specific to skiing and movements, and maybe you'll be on snow at that point. We can talk about where you are. Would be really cool, and it is neat to the people we get to meet. People ask me why I wanted to start the podcast and why Angelo I did it. And for me, a lot of it was, it's great. I get to sit down and talk with people that I haven't met but know of and are big in the industry and talk about skiing. And it's awesome. It's like sitting in the bar, but no one else can ask the question other than me and Angelo. We get all your time. It's beautiful.
No, it's been great for me. No, Dave, thanks for inviting me. And Angelo, I really appreciate it. It's been great to talk with you guys. And that's exactly, it felt just like a conversation with a couple of buddies talking skiing in a bar. So I think it's a great format you guys have created. And you guys ask really well thought out questions and you make it very comfortable. So keep up the good work. I enjoy watching these podcasts as well. I'm a big fan. So keep up the good work, guys.
Thank you.
Really good. Really good.
Awesome. Thank you. And I've got to put a thank you out there to our sponsors, Blizzard Technica, for helping us out and really helping us keep the podcast cranking along, with also Nick's Boot Fitting over at Mount Snow. Some really great help from those guys, and hopefully that'll can continue. And welcome to season 3, our first podcast of the season with Chris Fellows. How can it get any better, Angelo?
Doesn't get better than that. It's all downhill from here.
All downhill from here, man. Thanks, Chris, and thanks everybody out there for listening.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
All right. This has been The Fall Line with Chaos and Company.